Unspoken continues. Here again is Vic Henderson.
Thug, jock, or sellout? What's a myth, what's a lie, and what's real about being a black man today? Joining me to discuss this is Dr. Waldo Johnson, an associate professor at the University of Chicago and past director of the Center for the Study of Race, Politics, and Culture. Nick Smith, an architecture student at University of Missouri, and veteran sports writer Lester Munson of ESPN. Professor, let me start with you. You approach the definition of a black man from an academic perspective. In your research, what do you see, what are you finding, what does it mean to be a real black man?
Well, it means many things. We can't help but be concerned about the fact that there are these stereotypes and myths. But I think when we think about this in a rather broad, general sense, it really is about men trying to figure out ways to make meaning of their lives, and in making meaning of their lives, trying to do those things that support themselves, their families, and their communities.
And when you're looking at this issue, are you looking at it from the perspective of black men and how they see themselves, how white people see black men, how black women see black men? What's really the focus of the research?
Well, the broader society, which include whites, clearly women, because females do in many ways kind of shape the roles and even the social construction of masculinity, and even themselves, you know, to the extent that they, as African-American males, see themselves in very positive ways, or whether or not they buy into some of the more negative things that detract from a positive image of African-American.
Now, you're studying African-American men, but Nick, you're actually a brother who's on campus down in Missouri. When you're rolling on campus, how do the brothers see themselves? What are the influences that brothers look at on campus to define who they are?
We all carry ourselves in a manner that we show respect for ourselves. You don't see many people on campus, you know, with the so-called thug appearance. They see themselves as young men trying to make a name for themselves, trying to get their lives straightened out or heading into the right direction.
Now, Lester, you come at it from a whole different perspective. You've been, you went to Princeton, law school at Chicago. You've been in the sports world for a long time. You're with ESPN right now, and so you see it from a different perspective. How are white people seeing black men, and what are the discussions that white folks have when black people are not in the room in terms of the image of a black man?
I think that we in sports journalism argue and face this issue almost on a daily basis. The population of the NBA and the NFL in particular is largely African American. As we seek to report on what these men are doing, we are consciously alert to the fact that we are largely white media looking at black men performing at the most elite level in all of sports. There are divisions between us and the media and these athletes, divisions of race, money, size, age, so it's a very difficult thing. We try very hard not to drift into a stereotype. Sometimes we do. There are words that we use. Athleticism is one.
So that's a code word.
It's a code word meaning black guys can jump higher than white guys. They are better athletes. It's a very sad thing that we still use that in sports journalism.
Let me dig down into something that you just talked about. You said the vast majority of the folks on the court in the NFL, you know, in the NBA are brothers. What is it that makes white people want to go and spend $100, $200, $300 for a ticket to watch a bunch of brothers running up and down the court? What's going on in the psyche of white people that makes them enjoy that form of entertainment?
I think that middle-class white people have a fixation, even an obsession, sometimes a healthy interest in sports. Even if you look at the National Hockey League, which is largely white, there will be a huge throng of white people watching these guys skate up and down the ice. I don't think that racial issues are transcended when white fans watch black athletes, but it is at least a step forward in that white people are willing to spend enormous sums of money to go to NBA games and to see, for example, the Chicago Bears here in Soldier Field.
Professor, let me play devil's advocate. Lester's saying he thinks it's a step forward when white folks go and see black people run up and down the court. And there are people who would say that white people seeing black men run up and down the court and wearing shorts is kind of taking us back to slave days or gladiator days where they like to see us, perform, kind of like minstrels. What's your take on that?
It's hard to assess. I mean, I think that both are true. I don't know that there's necessarily any a pejorative way to kind of think about that. For some, it is the opportunity to see those who have been elevated to the elite positions in a particular area of sport perform. And in that regard, I think Lester's right that there may be far less of an issue around race for those particular individuals than others. But on the other end, for some, it may very well be the notion that it is performance as such, in the way in which you kind of talked about in kind of during a period of time when, in fact, African Americans, in particular African American males, were in very subordinate roles.